Okay, breeding shed renovation for the 2019 breeding season, which starts in 5 weeks. I got some work to do. As you can see, this is a flat roofed structure. It currently has, it's also made in panels, so if you look, you can see that there are gate latches holding it together. There's one here, there's one here, one down there. So all the sides, it's like a house of cards, and all the sides are put together with gate latches. Top and bottom. There's another one over there. So it's relatively easy to take the top off. I did this because I rent, and I want to be able to pack this up and move it when I move and not have to rebuild all over again. So it's going to be relatively easy to take the top off. The reason I'm taking the top off is currently, as you can see, it has a sheet of plywood on it with a bit of silver insulation on top of it to keep the plywood from getting too hot, because wood does get hot when it bakes in the sun. But the problem being that it leaks like a sieve if it gets wet, and when I put, last winter I just put a sheet of plastic over it, which should have worked because the water isn't going to penetrate the plastic even on a flat roof. But what ended up happening was I had a cat that liked to climb up on top of the roof and sharpen its claws on the plastic until it ripped it to shreds. And then of course it rained right into the plywood, which warped downwards, dribbled all over the place, and leaked in on the birds. So this is not working for me. So my plan is, one of the major things I have to do is I'm going to pull the top off and knock the piece of plywood off of it and get a piece of hard plastic from Tap Plastics to put up there. Something like 1/8 of an inch thick, probably translucent, to let light in, and with, you know, screws that have a rubber gasket on them so that water won't leak in at the screw holes, and have a permanent solid plastic top on it that no cat can scratch through and no water can leak through. It may have a little bit of water standing on it. I imagine that it will probably, like the wood did, sag down in the middle areas up here because I don't have a lot of support, but I don't care. So as long as it doesn't leak on the birds, I'm happy. So I'm hoping to get one solid sheet that's 6 by 8 feet, and I think I can do that without too much trouble at Tap Plastics. And yeah, so that's one of the big things that has to happen here pretty soon. I'm going to measure the piece and go down and figure out what kind of plastic I'm going to put on top of it. And then the inside needs to be renovated. I've determined that really, if you keep your birds outside, you can only breed them in the spring and the fall. It's not a year-round deal. So I need to put as many cages as I can in here to get as many birds as I can get bred in the limited seasonal windows that I have for breeding, for optimal breeding. So, as you can see, this stack of cages is completely pristine because it's been washed. This stack, not so much. So between breedings, I clean out and sterilize cages. I clean out and sterilize nest boxes. Everybody says, "Oh, you can't sterilize a wooden nest box." Bullpucky. You clean out everything in the bottom of it, fill it up with water, scrub it out real good, and then pour some bleach in it and let it sit for a while. And then and then put it out in the sun to dry for a few days. It will be sterile inside, I promise you. So I have 6 cages to clean out, a cockatiel cage to get out of the way. I'll have to move all of these too, because I'm going to take these benches, these shelves that I have here out, because these aren't very stable. These stacks are not very stable on the shelves. And what I've discovered that other breeders do that I didn't know when I originally built it is they literally put boards across the back wall and hang the cages off the boards. So I'm going to end up with stacks of 3. They'll be mounted higher on the wall, so this will probably be up here hanging on screws. And then there'll be another one, an inch or 2 space between them, and the next one will be hung on screws down there. and then an inch or two space between them, and the next one will be hung on screws down below. So there'll still be stacks of 3, but there'll be space between them. They're not sitting on each other because this is very unstable. And when you put nest boxes on it with weird weight, it gets even more unstable. So I'm going to hang them, and I have 2 stacks here against the back wall. Originally, I'm going to put 3 stacks in, so I'm going to cram this stack all the way over to this corner, put another stack a little off-center, and another stack just that side of the center, so that I can then hang this stack over here, on the center over here, and still have room to pull trays out of the bottom of the cages, and put in one last stack on this wall right here. This wall has the 1 stack. I'm just going to move it over into the corner over there. And I'm going to take out all of these shelves because I'm going to have less room in here for me to move around. And I'm going to need to stick the garbage can, the food bucket, and my step stool over here where the shelf is currently taking up space, so that I have some space to move around here in the center. So it's going to be a job. First things first, I have to take the clean cages out and stack them over there with the other clean cages, and scour out the dirty cages and put them all aside. And then I start deconstruction. So that is the plan. I'll give you video updates as I go.